All right, we're going to start the meeting. We will not be broadcasting live because of equipment problems, but it will be put on the net, I guess, when...
We'll get it in the next couple days, so
Yeah.
delayed broadcast.
So I'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting, Moose Lake City Council for Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank our guests who are here tonight. Thank you. This afternoon, I should say. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going on to the consent agenda. 2A is the minutes. We have the organizational city council meeting for January 12th, 2022. The regular city council meeting for January 2022. Any discussion or questions on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to 2B financial reports, we have the city accounts payable for January 2022, city financial statements for January 2022. Number 3, the liquor store profit loss statement, January 2022. Do you have any questions or comments on the financial report? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the financial reports?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Just a quick question, have we heard when our audit will start?
The audit will take place the last week of March.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 3, public comment. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. If you have any, please keep them to 3 minutes. Looks like we have none tonight, thank you. Moving on to number 4, departmental reports. 4A, Police Chief Department Report for January 2022.
Mayor, members of the council, I don't have a lot to report tonight, but for the totals for January, we had 146 calls for service. 37 of those were extra patrol, 15 traffic stops, 29 community engagements, 8 assists to other agencies, 53 calls for service, and 4 medicals. I know this is going to air here at a later date. It seems to go around every year, but there's another, DOT or MnDOT scam going around. So if people are getting those in the mail to pay or something's going to happen, to just toss them, because every year it comes out and MnDOT's not going to be calling you to make sure your stuff is up to date. So just so they know that. And then again, once on the snow removal, we're having a couple of businesses and stuff along the sidewalks that aren't, making sure those are getting shoveled. So try and take care of that. At the last meeting, we discussed an investigator promotional thing. Officer Couture has accepted that position, so that's gone into effect, and we're just working on some training for him now, get him into a few things, but he's been pretty busy already. And our new squad is now in service. We got that back, so you've probably seen that going around a little bit, and seems to be working out well. The build went pretty smooth, and not much else going on. Everything seems to be kind of stable at the moment, so let's hope it continues.
146, that's a lot of calls.
Yeah, goes in streaks and stuff, so let's hope it's, I think we have a little bit more in the summer, but yeah.
Counselor?
Yeah, I was wondering about the old school. How often does that get patrol then, if there's been any issues down there since we had the trouble of last year?
No, it's funny you bring it up because we just met with him, was it yesterday? Yesterday, yeah, I think yesterday, because, we go through it and around it, we have keys to get in the building. I was just in there a couple of weeks ago, going through it, doesn't look like anything new. The snow now makes it easy for us to see if anybody's been up to the building. We did have an issue of somebody trying to get in the building adjacent to it, which is a city-owned building, but they didn't get in. Right now with the snow, depending if we can get around the building, we continue to go through there and check, but we can get somewhat close on each side. But right now, there's been no new activity or break-ins, or we haven't received any reports on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I like the new color and stuff and the way they painted on the new squad. I think it looks nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
That's reflective, so it's, we like
Well, it's a
that.
different type of paint scheme and stuff, and I think it adds to the color and stuff to it, so it looks like something different than the old style, so.
Thanks, appreciate it, yeah.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please pass the thank you on to the crew.
Will do, thanks.
Appreciate it. Public Works Superintendent, Department Report for January 2022.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yeah, like the weather outside, right? It's all good, right? It's nice for a change. With the lack of snow, last month, black-ish, seemed like there was a lot here beginning of the winter, not so much quite right now. We've been able to focus on getting a lot of other things done. We'll start in the water department. Water distributed 4.5 million gallons drinking water in the month of January. Frost depths are deep. We do have some water services starting to freeze. We have 5 services currently running right now to prevent the freezing. That's all basically followed right down our frozen water and sewer line policy that you've all heard me talk about, yak about for a long time now. The more we utilize that tool, especially as a community and a water purveyor, it's working really well. And the knowledge is getting out there. People are starting to get the rhythm of it. Every winter, my phone starts blowing up. It's actually a good thing. It's preventing a lot of extra expense for a lot of people, and it's keeping our costs down to operate through. So it's actually very good. But yeah, once again, one more reminder, frost temps are like 48 inches in the ground right now. So please refer to that policy if you have any questions. Contact City Hall, they'll get you in touch with us. Contact me if you get a hold of me directly. I'll gladly walk anyone through that. It helps me out just as much as it helps anyone we run out to, so.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
We haven't had any problems over at, was it Stevenson's, where we,
Not a single one.
that,
Yep. Not a
okay,
call. Yep, absolutely.
okay.
I had this on here last month too. We're looking into a valve exercising program. The equipment costs I mentioned last month they're pretty high to get this equipment purchased. There is some OSHA grants out there that are 50-50 matching to bring down some of the costs of some of this equipment. I'm going to be looking into them here this month, beginning of March, something like that, just to kind of see if it's something we're going to do. Costs are through the roof. We're obviously not going to do it. We're going to at least look into it and see if we can try to do that. Sewer department collected, the collection system collected 9.8 million gallons of wastewater in the month of January. That number's a little bit lower than last month. Those numbers are looking really good for from our lighting projects, the results. Those numbers are still looking really good. I can't give you any concrete numbers, nor do I want to. I would rather have our engineers give you those numbers. But we're making progress and we're doing really good. So we got to just keep that ball rolling. The grinder that you guys approved last month, that's ordered with COVID and everything. It's backlogged quite a ways. I think it's end of March. I'm trying to, if it gets in on time, I'm trying to schedule that with our yearly cleaning. They can install right at one shot, one mobilization charge, keep everything a little cheaper for us. So there'll be more to come on that in March. Street department, obviously the snow and ice removal, you've seen that going on. We've been battling a couple COVID issues in the shop, in and out, guys in and out, but we're keeping things rolling. So everybody's good, but it's a struggle everywhere. So even the public workshop, the struggle there too. With that, we've been doing some projects in the shop, especially with colder weather. Not as much snow and ice to remove. One was a snow pusher. We ended up actually building one. We had an old one-way plow that was on a truck that lit on fire that maybe Ted might remember years ago, way before I was still in high school, I bet, when that happened. So,
A while ago.
yeah, that old plow was actually laying in the weeds up at the shop, and I found it 3 years ago. We adapted it to fit on the old loader. We sold the loader, we got the new loader, we adapted it to fit on the new loader, and then we built a pusher out of it. And if you look at those pushers online, they're upwards of $10,000-12,000. And I thought, we got some scrap metal laying around, we're gonna try this, right? And we actually cleaned Elm and 4th Street, and it was about half the time with this piece of equipment. And it's not gritty, and it's not supposed to be, but it's cutting time down big time. So it'll be interesting to see, hopefully it holds together, but so far it's working out pretty good. We also modified our truck loading chute for the snow blower. So that now looks a lot like what MnDOT has, that literally shoots the snow up in here and directs it right down into the box of the trucks. That was another one of the things we were messing around with. And then the park requested a calcium chloride sprayer,
Correct.
which sounded like a bigger deal at the time, but we actually were able just to put it together quite quickly in an afternoon in the shop, and it's going to work slick, very slick. I think we paid almost $2,000 to chloride the campground last year, and we'll do ourselves now for $150-200, and we'll do the whole thing.
So the campground is making requests for additional dust control. So Phil and his team took it upon themselves to try and build us one, and successfully did so. And I did include pictures of all the things he's mentioned within the packet. So our idea with this is that, we can save money, and then in addition, we'll be able to do more dust control to actually meet the needs of the campground at a reduced cost. So pretty stellar.
That's what we're hoping for,
Yeah,
but
Yep.
so far everything's working good. So.
Is that the picture in this packet here of the pickup truck with?
on the back.
Yeah.
Correct, that
That's
is the
it.
spray bar. Yeah.
Yep, page
Yeah.
33 I got here in my pad, right? Yep, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot we included these.
I did.
That's right.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, that's all right. The pusher is actually, would be 31, and then I think the snow blower's in there too somewhere. Maybe she didn't put that in there.
I did.
Maybe it is. It's in there. Yeah, so that's in there too. Yeah.
Would there be, what kind of chemicals would you be using?
It'd be just calcium chloride and water.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I know other people that have built these and it worked for them.
Yeah, especially for what we paid last year and what we got, I thought it was a little ridiculous.
We could use that at the Historical Society if needed to.
Absolutely, especially when we're talking like literally 1/10 of the cost. We'll take it, so. If there's any questions, no questions, we're good. I'm just gonna jump right to the engineering, if that's
Please.
okay. And I think Alyssa and I both are gonna take this one, right?
Correct.
You starting or am I starting?
Go ahead.
Gotta find it, there it is. 73 Project Trail, obviously on hold, however, I did just receive a request about a pedestrian crossing sign up by the school, some flashing lights. I think you and me, and I just texted Tyler we need to look into that. Especially now since the project's still open, something we need to look at. But that's super new, it's not even in the notes, but there will be more on that to come. The Wells 3 and 4 replacement project, it's completed, we're still working out some chemical feed issues. You have yet to see the last pay app because it's not completed, and I'm not happy, to be honest with you. So, and the contractor's not happy with me, and that's fine. But we need to do this to do our due diligence to the city, and we paid a lot of money for that. It needs to be top notch before we pay them. That's my opinion. We did get some bad news from the Minnesota Department of Health saying we do need to upgrade our wetland protection plan. And what that is, I wish it was a one-page document, but it's not. It's a very long document that our engineers have to help us with doing. Since we moved our wells 300 feet, they think we need to do a new wellhead protection plan, and we have to listen to them, so we will be doing that. But we were really hoping we could modify ours to meet our new needs, and the Department of Health thinks that won't work. So we're gonna be working on that. The Phase 2 trail, you wanna touch on that one?
Sure thing. So we have been awarded a $300,000 grant. This spring, our engineers are working on applying for additional grants. We've been meeting with them to discuss the different route options that we could take. So we've been working on that and trying to find options that can be accomplished at a lesser cost when we're weighing them between one another. So looking at being fiscally responsible when we choose our route for that. We did have a meeting with DOC, a joint meeting, and we discussed the route options with them just because it will be around or near their facility at multiple points as we close the loop. And that went really well. We did get a go-ahead from them as far as whatever route we want to select, they will support. And so that was really positive news.
4th Street reconstruction project, that keeps coming up. I think we had a 60% meeting. Well, we kind of wrapped it into our monthly meeting, but those plans are coming along. They look really good. Still working out some details, but it looks like that's gonna be a nice project. I&I reduction plan, I'm sorry, my bad, forget that. The lining project, that just engineering estimates, but that's looking like it's gonna get us almost all the way up to the bank. That one, this year's one shot, that's gonna be huge. So that's gonna be a wonderful thing. The campground expansion, you wanna touch on that?
Sure thing. So we've been meeting with the engineers and developing concept drawings. So they had a couple of different options for us as far as expansion layout. So how many sites can we get in here? What does a road look like? Is there a need for moving the office or creating a separate entrance, things of that nature. So what the plan is right now is they've kind of asked us to dream big. So what would you like to see ultimately? And with that, then we'll be applying for grants in the next couple of months. Some of the grants will actually take up to a year to hear back from. They're applying for 2 grants that have no match, that they've been successful with in other areas as far as fully funding campground projects. So we're excited about that, but you don't want to get the cart before the horse. We've got to get there. So they're working on concept drawings and things like that for us. We will share once we kind of get some more information. But essentially, we'll put everything together. That would be our ideal. Head out for the grants, and then depending upon what we get awarded, we would then scale back the project if need be, or make amendments to make sure that it's something we
Depends
can afford.
on where the entrance, we may not be using the entrance that we have right now. We may end up going off of 7th.
Correct, 7th.
We're looking at that option, and we're looking at new bathroom facilities, and because you have to have not necessarily showers, but bathroom facilities within a certain number of feet from the campground area. So we're looking at all of that. And also the old bathhouse, so that can be either torn down or remodeled for a different use, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we don't know, we'll look at the possibilities there.
The rest of the things on here are just placeholder stuff that are on our monthly agendas, just to kind of hold that place so we don't forget. There's a few grant opportunities that I'll be putting in for some stuff for the wastewater side, just small ones, but they have deadlines, I think, in March and April, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot in this document. There's a lot that we talk about in 2 hours. If anyone has questions about any of this or wants more information, just please reach out to me. I'll be happy to get you whatever you need or want or whatever. Any questions with that?
And Steve, we're constantly looking at Mighty Duck stuff too for arena, because we know those compressors are getting old. We got 3 of them, and they're like about 150,000 a piece. So we're keeping our eye open for compressors, and maybe Liz will touch on that later with other things that'll come up. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Please pass the thank you on to the crew.
Yep, we'll do.
That brings us to 4D Chamber of Commerce updates.
Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce had their monthly meeting today. In addition to their monthly meeting, they also had a strategic planning meeting. which is something that's pretty exciting for the community. So a couple of things they touched on were they just had a really successful ice bocce event this last weekend. It went really well. They didn't have all the numbers defined yet, but overall the event has grown and it's a big success.
36 teams?
35 or 36 teams, correct?
Quite a few people are involved with it.
And it's bringing teams from the cities in northern Minnesota, and so just really a great event that they're hoping to continue to grow. So that was exciting. Their strategic planning meeting is just kind of defining how, moving forward, how they want to be organized and what they want to focus on, and as they continue to grow, you know, how they can better serve their members, and different ways that they can impact the community and how they're structured. So they brought in somebody from the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce chapter to kind of guide them through this process, and I think they'll be sharing their results, so we will be certain to share what we can as well as they move forward. But today was really successful for them.
Kickoff for it, yeah. Billy Joe was voted in as the new chamber president. That was a reorganizational today also. And who was the vice chair? Sean.
Sean is
Yeah.
the vice
Right.
president.
So, and they're starting to look into their other activities in the summer already. So they're doing well. Moving on to previously discussed business, 5A, City Moose Lake Ordinance number 166, Certificate of Inflow and Infiltration INI Compliance.
Yes, so this is the second month we've had the ordinance number 166 in the agenda packet. So looking for any questions, input, feedback, and/or this would be the second reading.
And the final would come next month for approval. So any questions or discussion? If you don't have any tonight, please bring them up to the city office before now and next month. Hearing none, then we'll move on to 5B. City Moose Lake Ordinance number 167, Tobacco Ordinance. We brought that out last month.
Correct, so this would be the
That would
second
be the
reading for
second
this one
reading.
as well. This month I did not include Carlton County's ordinance in there, but if anybody has any questions, I can most certainly provide that again. I also took the comments off the side of this ordinance, so it's a clean copy. Just wanted to have that in there last month for questions or review opportunities. So once again, a second reading, and if you have any comments, feedback, or questions, feel free to let us know.
And this ordinance is being passed by pretty much everyone in the county.
Correct.
Just so you know that also. So no questions? Hearing none? Moving on to 5C, City Superintendent Job Description.
Yes.
That's on page 58.
So, following last month's meeting, when this was discussed, Ryan and I sat down with Phil just to get a good idea of what the previous Public Works job description looked like in comparison to what he actually does. In addition, we obtained some city superintendent job descriptions, which surprisingly aligned very closely to our Public Works. And so, in kind of reviewing all the different input pieces into this, we came up with a draft copy. That draft copy went in front of the Personnel Committee and then was modified. This is our fourth and final copy of the job description, so lots of time and energy has gone into making sure that we get this one right.
If you look on page 68, I believe that is, where it shows the safety coordinator office responsibilities under the Minnesota OSHA Aware Act that I had mentioned at the last council meeting. You can see what the responsibilities that are expected in the Minnesota OSHA Aware Act that was brought to our attention that we did not have here in Moose Lake, so. So with that, I guess we're looking for discussion and motion to approve the city superintendent position under this job description, which we needed to update. We have added a lot of things to it, but did not change the job description. And I didn't think the superintendent, the reflection of a street department superintendent, to me, did not fit under all the duties that we had under. That's why I suggested a city superintendent title.
Correct.
It's really the same title, we're just taking the street department off it.
And I don't think the job description had even been updated since Kai Spencer
Probably.
No, I had
was
not.
on there. Just,
The highlighted portions are the portions of, or the line items that we either reworked or added to just make sure that we had an accurate depiction of what we really need. And ultimately, this protects the city in that we have identified what we need from this role, and it's up to date. So moving forward, we will have an all-encompassing, accurate description of what's being done.
It wasn't fitting our insurance, or matching our insurance either, which was brought to our attention by Yvonne, which was interesting.
say under 19, would you just remove the number 21?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Is there any discussion by the council? I should state, if what we need to do, once this is approved, is the personnel committee needs to meet and discuss this position and come back to the council on recommendations on the position, and we're asking that it be a salaried position, not hourly. In other words, there's no overtime, which is a big change in this position.
Once we have the job description and the position identified, like Ted said, then we will have to do some more work as far as recommendations for wage and just kind of outlining what the salary position looks like in reference to the job itself. So this was step one for us.
I think in that email I sent out to everybody, I had the rough estimate of savings so far with all these job duties going under the street department. The real simple one was $60,000, and then another amount came up that I had forgotten about, and that is every year we were contracting with the county. I think it was $25,000 a year for them to come twice a summer and fill potholes. And we don't do that anymore, they're doing it. I know you would have to figure out how much material we use that would be subtracted from the 25,000, but I figure it's somewhere around 15,000 or so that we're saving for our street department to do it. I know we had to buy equipment too, but that equipment will last over a number of years. So it's kind of hard to judge some of those things that we have all rolled into it, because we're doing the job, so the maintenance part is saving this contract, but the materials are mixed in with it on a lot of them.
Right.
So that brings us to roughly easy 75,000 without going into in-depth of other things, which I think would be more, probably around 90 overall, with the park stuff that we don't contract anymore, that we have them do.
In addition, we have discussed doing a local, an area wage study for this type of position or positions in other industries that are relevant. So we'll have all that information to present with, you know, a recommendation moving forward for that aspect as well.
Just to help give information, help you guys make a decision on the next step.
So you're looking for a comment and the motion?
Yeah,
I would just say that every step of the way, from what I've seen, Phil and his department and him as the leader has stepped up and taken on more and more responsibilities without being asked, and has always had the city of Moose Lake and citizens at the forefront of the discussion is how can we save money, how can we be more efficient? And I think this position is overdue, and this is something that's been earned, not given, and I'm grateful, so I'm all for this.
any other comments, questions? I have a motion to accept this position description for city superintendent.
I'll make it.
Got a second?
One second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. So we'll have to set a personnel committee meeting, Chris, and start the next process. Moving on to number 6, new business, 6A, League of Minnesota Cities Liability Coverage Waiver Form.
This is an annual event for us for our liability coverage, so just looking for a motion that we do not waive the monetary limit.
I'll make that motion.
Got a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6B, First National Bank Corporate Authorization Resolution.
So with the changes in city personnel and staffing, we needed to update our corporate authorization resolution with our bank, First National Bank. And so this document is redefining the city's agents listed on it, and we need to provide meeting minutes and approval of the new corporate authorization resolution to the bank.
And all those members need to do a signature, correct?
Correct.
Any questions from the council? I have a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 6C, supplemental letter agreement, Short Elliott Hendrickson Incorporated 2022 sewer lining project.
So we've seen these previously for other projects. So what this is essentially just solidifying the 2022 sewer lining project as a city project. This is more of a piece that the engineers need on their side in order to activate a project for us, but we do need approval of it on our end as well. There was a map. It did not print correctly, so I can most certainly provide one via email to the councilors, and will do so, but it did define the identified portion of the 2022 lining project that will take place. And as Phil mentioned previously, it does get us all the way to the end of our, the first section that was identified. So with increasing the project amount from 100,000 to 300,000, we were able to carry our, the distance throughout the end of the first identified stretch, so.
And that is the oldest
Section?
section that we have.
And those are just estimates.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And
Bill-
where, go ahead, Chris.
Does that starts at like First Street, is it, by what I can see on the,
Actually, this project,
is it?
this one will start right behind the dentist, across from KJ's, which is
Oh,
where we
okay.
left off.
Okay.
From there, all the way to the main.
Okay.
That was my question. It's gonna go to the bank?
That's what the estimates are telling us.
Okay.
It'll go, I would say, to be conservative, I'd say Third Street for sure,
Okay.
which is one shot back from there, so. Definitely a large chunk.
So we need any other questions, I should say, if I ask for a motion? Question, discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. At 6D on the second page of the agenda. This is Lou's second edition covenants and restrictions. Alyssa?
I'll provide a little bit of a background. The Planning Commission received a request from Thompson Heritage Homes for a variance to the covenants that would, that define two lots in particular as single-family lots within the Lewis Second Edition. As this process was carrying on, we had just consulted with our attorneys regarding the matter and provided them with the covenants and restrictions that oversee the Lewis Second Edition and define what lots can be what as far as single-family dwellings versus multifamily dwellings, things of that nature. So throughout this process, we were just made aware from our attorneys that the city does not have the authority to grant a variance. And so our attorneys are saying there's the potential for a waiver and release process to take place. They are asking for some additional time and resources to study some previous cases and case law in order to determine whether or not a waiver and release could be established. And if it's established, what it looks like, what parties are involved, and what would need to take place in order to change these identified lots from single family to multifamily use. That would then allow the developer to build duplexes on the two identified lots within the development that they are looking to build. At this time, because it would cost, there'd be an additional cost incurred from attorneys as far as resources, I wanted to bring it to your attention and see, just get feedback and see if there's any interest in us pursuing this in order to determine whether or not we can provide some type of waiver and release to allow building duplexes on these lots, or whether or not we'd like to cease activity on it.
Is that right, council, for discussion? I think we're in close to 15 years on a Lewis Second Edition in that development area.
Which lots are they?
Yeah.
It's lot 4 and 5. And one is on Mills Arc Circle and one is on Langhorst. So the two corner lots on each of the cul-de-sacs.
Do you have an estimate on the cost?
She was not able to provide me one. They just don't know how much digging they're gonna have to do or how much of their resources that they would have to continue to put into it. Their interpretation of the covenants was that it was designed to protect the property owners within the development versus giving the authority to the city to dictate what happens within the development. So regardless of what was potentially intended when the covenants was developed, that is their interpretation of how it is worded at this time. So I do not have an estimate. If there was a certain threshold that the council was comfortable with, I could make sure that we didn't exceed that. I can ask for an additional estimate and bring it back to council. I just wanted to be transparent with where we were at and what the proceedings were with the attorneys at this time.
I think all the lots, that were designated for duplexes have been purchased.
Yeah.
And there's two of them that were purchased. There is no building planned on them right now, but they're owned by another individual.
But the developer was present at the meeting.
And was that the first
And-
one?
Yeah, but the developer said that that was not the intent, it was just that the city wanted more assurance when they went into this
Correct.
originally, and that it could have been any of the lots. So,
Correct, and that was communicated to the city attorneys, and so they are aware of that. Because the developer is willing to participate in this process, it's possible that it could be, the waiver and release process could be very short and condensed. We just don't know yet.
do we know roughly what the tax would be, the city portion's tax would be on those when they are built, based on other places that are similar sizes?
I don't,
3,
but
4,
I could,
5,000?
I could absolutely find that out.
I know you had built one,
Would
the
you have any
current one that you
additional?
have.
I don't, I mean, it just finished this
It's finished.
fall, so
So you
I
probably
don't know
don't know.
what, actually, I'm not sure what our tax is gonna be now that it's a finished product. You know, we haven't gotten that new.
Not that far yet.
To me, once they're on the tax rolls, and that's the goal, we've waited 15 years. I don't know what the comfort level is for the rest of the city councilors, but I would be willing to spend up to a few $1,000s because we'd get that money back within a couple of years anyhow. So I would like to see us move forward and help any way we can, because we want more houses.
I guess I agree with Councilor Dutton, and, you know, these lots have been sitting vacant for, you know, forever, and that it would really be nice to see something built on them and start to get some tax out of it, so I would support spending some money to see, like you said, it could be a short process. If it looks like it's gonna be a longer, in-depth, more attorneys, maybe we'll have to revisit the idea, but I think to start out and just see, it could be an easy process to get it going.
I'd agree with what my fellow councilors have said. There, I'm curious if there's any homeowners up there right now that are living there that have complaints and are dead set against this.
There are, which is what brought us to the point of making sure our Ts were crossed and Is were dotted from a legal standpoint. So that is what has brought us to this point.
We did have a
We
meeting.
had, I think we had 3 people at the meeting that were residents, 2 residents. There's one gentleman here that was a resident up there, and we also had another one on, is it Millsark? Millsark Drive?
Clausen.
The gentleman, Clausen, on Millsark is the farthest one west, correct? I'm trying to think. Well, Joe and Lee, which are on one. So we had 2 residents, one on each of the cul-de-sacs that were against it.
The issues brought up was drainage, also the safety issue, possibly having driveways coming out, and decreased home values.
Correct.
Prior
So
to-
everybody's aware of all the discussions that went on. And, excuse me, Melissa, if you had another.
We had a responsibility to the applicants to make sure that we were continuing to move forward with their request in a timely fashion. So we had proceeded through planning commission meetings, and the planning commission throughout the first meeting had consensus to make the recommendation to council to allow this to allow the variance. And that was prior to knowing what our attorneys were saying. So just to provide additional insight of the proceedings that have already taken place, the planning commission was in support of this process as well.
Due diligence, though, had to make sure that
Correct.
what lawyers would say on that. And they may find out through the next process that there is not a precedence, we don't know. So, just so you're aware of that, when we go into it, all the different possibilities of it. Was there a motion? And I'm sorry.
No, I said I'd be in favor of up to a few $1,000s, but I didn't know what all the other counselors were thinking, so
Okay.
I didn't want to make a motion on
We just
Okay.
need consensus to proceed.
Yeah,
I'd be willing to spend money.
we would do consensus on this and with the dollar amount.
Yeah, I would say a few $1,000s, and then if you could come back and say, well, this is not going to work, or that's going to be a lot more expense than it's going to be worth, then I guess we'll have to regroup and
Okay.
Chris?
I would support that.
Okay. Alt, you said also?
Yes.
And if you want to look at the minutes of the residents that were against it, please come up to the office. It's there, and you can find out who they are, where they live. You can talk to them, whatever you need to do for your own sake, for discussion as we go on into the next month. So it's all available, public. It's all public. Well, thank you very much. Moving on to 6E, Downtown District Housing Development Discussion.
So there was a request made to the Planning Commission by Scott Williams, and his property is 85 Arrowhead Lane. The property is currently zoned C2, so it allows for, within the principal permitted uses, it allows for a commercial retail space with apartments housing above. So a request came to the Planning Commission. Scott does not have a desire to build a two-story building, so he was asking for a variance that would allow for some type of commercial establishment on the front side facing Arrowhead Lane, and then facing Avenue B, some type of residential opportunity. There was a planning commission meeting, and there were a couple community members that attended, and lots of discussions that were had. His primary interest is the housing aspect. And so simply bringing it forward for discussion if we have any interest in allowing a housing development in that area that does not have commercial space attached to it.
During the discussion of the whole project, the residents that are behind the Avenue B, they did not like the idea of residential access from the back, which Scott wanted to do. Even though in the old motel there were apartments back there for rent, and they were rented at times, so there was access before. And the width of the road came up, but we have found out since that it is a 40-foot easement, so it's a lot wider. It's probably double of what you see. So we don't know if it's more on his property, probably, and less on the other. It hasn't been surveyed, but there is a large easement, and there's also a power easement. That would be sewer also, right?
Yep, sewers in there.
Sewer,
Water's in there.
water, so there's quite a large easement and a road easement there. Well, that may be total. So there is a lot more room back there than I thought. And I think so it was let's say that the residents behind his business were not in favor of the two buildings. In other words, well, it sounded like one building, the back half residential, the front half facing 73 business or office. I don't know how many, offices available for businesses.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
When you talk about residential, now, there was that home attached to the back of the motel.
Correct.
So are you talking like,
If you look on
So-
page,
Yeah, but I-
yeah.
is this
either
the
one.
actual, this is,
This is what he presented at
oh,
the
okay,
planning
the
commission.
three,
Correct. So
He
he's
was
looking,
thinking of two of those,
correct.
what I got.
Single level, there's a garage door, it looks like windows, but the garage doors that are on set with the front of the establishment.
Right.
Looking
would it be a total of 6
Correct.
residents across?
6 total units.
And then on the front side of it, business.
Correct.
Correct.
The other thing, possibility, but we discussed it a few years ago, and I don't know if all the members were on the council at the time, where we denied, if you took that same housing development, turned it facing the 73, he was talking about condos at the time. This is a little bit different design. I thought, well, let's ask the council if that's still viable. If not, we won't even come up or even speak to them about it. Just wanted to get consensus from the council, because it was denied condos a number of years ago, but I can't remember who was on the council at the time. Could have been longer or shorter than I think. So, yes, Greg.
So if he's gonna put residential facing backwards, are we gonna put a street back there, 40-foot street? Is that, are we gonna have 30-foot setback from the street to the front of the house?
See, he has a lot of room on that lot. He can move it farther
Okay, so-
farther west.
Right, okay, so if you put 35-foot setback from the street to the houses, okay, then you gotta have, he's gonna have a business outside of that, how much setback does he have to have from the 73 to the business?
Yeah, that's a problem. That's why I wanted to see if there's consensus from the council, either yes or no, if it was just the apartments facing 73, not the alleyway.
So essentially, the developer said, you know, the commercial aspect that would be added in is strictly to comply with the current zoning.
Yeah.
So if the zoning wasn't an issue, he wouldn't put the commercial space out there, because there are offices that are currently sitting vacant. So it essentially, he just has a really strong desire to do the housing project. So if it's just a matter of discussion, does the council want to entertain it? Yes, no? Do they want it facing Avenue B? Would the council want to see it facing Highway 73, or not at all?
If he's gonna make it residential, who has to put the street in?
Trees?
If he's gonna put residential facing that way, that's gonna be a street, who's responsible for putting that
He's got a
street?
large parking lot there. You only can have the 2 accesses that are on 73 now. You can't add any more. State wouldn't allow it. So he would have just the same access, the 2 accesses that he has already.
No, but we already have a street back there, so is he gonna?
It would just stay as it is. It would just stay as a,
Not a street.
Are you talking,
Northern Alley?
are you talking it facing 73, or you,
Well,
and you're
I'm
talking
saying-
it facing?
I'm talking about the street that's behind there. If he's having
he wouldn't face
residential
it.
facing to
Right.
the east, is that his street access to the residential?
Right.
So then, okay, that's gonna be a street, are we responsible to put a street in?
No.
It's
What
correct.
I'm asking is if he doesn't want to do the business aspect, because there's so many open buildings right now that are commercial that are not being used. Going back to his first request a number of years ago of having apartments but facing 73, and his parking lot would actually be where they come in to the garages that are part of the buildings. And these are not cheap housing. You're talking, what was he thinking, up to 1,700 a month.
17 to 2,000 is what he said per
Rental.
month.
They're all regular.
Yeah.
Single level living.
They're not, they're not the $700, $800 rental. These are far more expensive.
So it'd be basically a change that from commercial to residential, just in that, well, parking lot.
That's what he would be asking. If there's consensus here, if not, we're not.
Oh,
even gonna-
okay, so would it
yeah.
be just the three then?
He
I
wants to
don't know.
2 units.
He wants to do two
He would
side
put
by
2
side.
units. There'd be
Oh.
6 of them,
How would that fit?
lengthwise,
Yeah, I just can't.
like the hotel.
But the hotel,
So he said these units, he said he has a total of 2,000, no, what is his footage?
300 feet.
300 feet. He has a
Correct.
total of 300 feet between his 3 parcels.
Ideally, I would like to see it stay business, but he's had it for sale for how many years now, and he hasn't been able to sell it to anybody for business. I can see his problem. If he has to sell it for business, he may be hanging on to that property for a long time. Would be nice to get something on the tax rolls for there. I can understand some of the people's concerns that live back there behind his business there, but I am open to consider this as being residential. It would be nice to see what he actually has planned here. I can see, he has these diagrams here and floor plans, but I just wonder how long it will sit vacant if we were going to wait for a business to come into that area. And it is kind of a long, narrow piece of property, so it can probably only be used for certain things. I do know that there is a demand for housing in town.
It's commercial, I think it should stay commercial. If there was a business aspect that was like, okay, we're gonna have this rented out for businesses and things like that, I would be for that, but we're not gonna put a farm of 80 acres there in the city of Moose Lake either for the same reason. That is prime real estate for businesses, and it should stay such, in my opinion.
Right?
I mean, yeah, it's commercial property, limited types of commercial property, but what? I don't know.
So commercial, you're saying, Chris?
I mean, I definitely see Counselor Lauer's position where right now it's a big eyesore, and how long is it gonna sit that? We have a lot of vacant commercial buildings up and down Arrowhead already. But on the other hand, it is a prime commercial spot. We hate to lose that. If I were to consider it though, I would have to have it where the front would be facing Arrowhead. If there's no commercial on the back. Because I just think that back would be a big eyesore. Then it might as well sit vacant.
You go back to a hotel.
Well, we talked to him about that, and he said it's a tough business to compete and to, stay open. You're talking building a whole new building which is, the expense would be way more than what the old one was. And the number of rentals that he would have would be hard to make it a viable business for him.
Well,
Even like the one out at the freeway is
He said between Airbnb
Yeah.
and VRBO
Yeah.
and all those other opportunities, it just totally changed that game. And so he's not interested in putting a motel back up there because he doesn't think it would be viable.
Well, and he was catering to the construction workers at the end there, because that's all that really was.
it was an older building, older
Yeah.
motel.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a
Yeah.
great life and it served its purpose, but in the end, it was getting old.
Mayor, do you mind if I make a comment just on the law enforcement side, as far as something to consider, just because you see right now where some of our apartments that are mixed in the commercial setting that are down there, and we have a lot of turmoil between those residents, whether they're hanging out in front and interrupting business, just to consider that now, if this is that person's backyard, you might see him sitting out there barbecuing, the swimming pool and everything else, and that's what you're gonna see coming through town in your commercial district. So just for consideration that if that's gonna interfere, because we see it now from time to time.
Thank you. I don't, doesn't
How
sound-
many businesses, or if he put commercial on the backside, like how much commercial would he put?
So he liked the floor print of this, what he provided, but essentially he would have it be office, so same building dimensions, same type of establishment as the housing that would face Avenue B, but he thought he could get 4 or 5 offices in that same footprint and have it face Arrowhead. So 2 separate buildings.
And I think he's talking about the businesses facing Arrowhead because it'd be way more traffic coming into a business and you
yeah.
wouldn't want them on that back alleyway.
The difficult part is, he would need a variance that would allow for him to have 2 separate buildings. He needs to make sure both his buildings can face the right direction and then still comply with all of the setbacks and things of that nature. And then, essentially, the residential aspect that faces Avenue B supplements and makes the commercial side viable until you can get people in the building. So lots to deal with there, which is something that if he has to do, he has to do.
Can I ask one more question? So
Yes,
if he had commercial on the backside, if I'm understanding this correctly, none of these apartments would have a backyard, correct?
right, but I don't think he wants to put the businesses on the back.
It'd be a whole separate building?
Well, he wants them on facing 73, the businesses.
Yeah, I know, but would it be, so the walls would be, this side is commercial and that side is or is he, like
I
a
think it
full
would be
separate building?
one building,
So
but
then,
the front side would be the business, back side would be the apartments.
yeah, so I'm saying,
Yeah.
none of these apartments would have a backyard. All
No.
the activity would be on Avenue B side.
Correct.
This floor plan that he has here, it's really hard to read on here. Is this designed with the apartments?
No,
And then
not the business part is not shown.
It's not showing.
the business part is not showing on here.
No, which identifies the desire primarily for a residential opportunity above everything else is, I think, where he was coming from.
Well, just to cut this short, now we don't have consensus to move ahead, but we're not going to say anything to him about that. Then he did present it to the building committee, whatever, and I think he has some options he can look at, suggestions that he may come back to the planning commission, or he may go in a whole new direction. But I think with the discussion I'm hearing, I don't think we have good consensus to tell him to look at residential, their apartments.
What was the planning committee's outcome of their meeting with us?
He just came, he paid the fees, he just wanted to get a feeling from the residents and the community And the residents behind him were not in favor of him putting apartments facing their backyards.
So what did the planning commission, they just,
He didn't ask for a yes or no.
Okay.
Right.
He just keeps trying
Information.
information
Okay.
only. Wanted to present this and say, where are we at? Is there support?
Right.
And so the feedback he got, you know, essentially, he's regrouping to come up with a definitive layout that the planning commission can review again, with the understanding that it has to include some type of commercial aspect.
All of commercial on first level and apartments up above.
See, he can do that right now. but
Without the planning commission.
He
Doesn't
doesn't,
do that now, right?
right.
Okay.
And he may come back with that. He may give up the rest of it and say, okay, then we'll do the commission and above it. He didn't want to go that way.
Oh,
If you put apartments up above, I don't know if
There was
you
fire
have
escape.
each individual, you probably would have to have either a hallway inside to access them, or
or something
stairs
between
for each
business
individual
or whatever.
one, stairwells.
There was ADA
Yeah,
compliance
there's
issues,
issues with that.
fire
Then, yep.
safety issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
They would not be ADA unless you had elevator in there somehow.
right, right.
And I imagine the cost, you know, to build anything right now is very expensive. You put a whole nother story on it, that's basically doubling your costs of how much you're gonna have to do.
And he had shared the interest that he got from people who wanted to be able to take advantage of something like this was the single level opportunity. And so that was geared towards his potential lease or renters, leasers.
And just an elevator, I think we looked at that at the arena. You're talking $100,000 for an ADA accessible elevator.
Yeah,
They're not cheap. And the construction is a little different than everything else, so it shoots the expense up really high. So I think we got an answer for that for us. We'll move on then. Moving on to 6F, Safety and Compliance Partnership.
The information within the packet is just going to be for your review. We've gotten a couple of different packets for our review as far as when we establish what we need to accomplish from a safety perspective. There are some different companies out there who partner with cities, and to the extent is totally up to the city. So a lot of the resources we have free through the League of Minnesota Cities. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing any free resources we have to help us get policies and procedures and things like that in place. So as we review some of these options, it would be from a perspective of some of the mandatory training pieces that we have to comply with, having a partner that helps us with some of the training that is required and things of that nature. So we've just started to look into partnership options and just kind of what's out there, and there'll be more to come at a later date.
Yeah, along with this safety process that we have to do now, it's quite entailed. You have to have programs and policies in place, and each building has to develop, let's say a procedure has to be developed for each building. That has to be kept up to date, along with any safety material that has to go with it, whether it's eye washes or first aid kits or the heart thing, you zap them, or, you know, all that stuff has to be researched and established and records kept. And training is a constant thing every year. I think we're way behind. I think everybody in this building has to have the blood pathogen and first aid and probably CPR, which has not been done for years. We got a lot of things to do to all of our personnel and all of our buildings. So it's going to be quite intense to get this whole thing up and running like it's supposed to be. And what these companies do, they come in and they help you establish all that. And when they leave, you have all your policies and procedures in place, and you have training records set up, and the first training that has to be done will be accomplished. And of course, we would want to work with what we can with League of Cities, so to cut expenses, but they're used to that. They, like the first one, this Sure Aware Advantage, they do it for over 100 in some cities within the state. The closest ones to us, they do Cloquet and is it Carlton, Thompson? Thompson, you know, so they're all around the area doing this type of work. So we wanted to look at Safe Sure. So I guess the next process would be the consensus to get bids from all of them to take the next step in this process. I think we have 3 of them in here to start with, 2 of them. So looking for consensus from the council to move ahead in the next step in this whole thing.
I think it's very important that we, mostly start in the safety committee, that we get our policies and everything in order.
One thing that's, you know, we kind of started to form a safety committee, but we found out, looking into this, we found out real quick that these people come in and tell you who you have to have on it. Like we were kind of just started one, well, that's not how you do it. You have to have specific people in specific positions that have to be on it. So right from the beginning, we have to look at a different, we have to make this sure that we're doing it right.
I think all aspects of different departments in the city have to have participation in it.
Greg?
It's be a pain in the ass.
Thank you. Is that a yes to consensus to get some bids?
Start looking.
Just a question, is it any of this based on size, that as far as compliance, and how much compliance based on the size of the city? and number of personnel?
Any city with employees 30 and above,
We were told 50.
50 and above?
Full-time, part-time, or total?
Sorry, I was in the meeting.
Oh, with Troy. No, it was 25. It was 25.
That was 30 and above, that's what it used to be.
I think it's full-time.
Is it full-time?
It's full-time.
No, it's
25 or
25.
more.
It's 25 or
And
more
how many do we
employees.
have?
50.
40.
So we can't make 25 contract employees?
I know, right? Independent contract gardeners.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Understood. And I know I've mentioned this before, and I will reiterate it. We will do our absolute best to partner with the League of Minnesota Cities on all of our free resources, and make sure that we are being responsible there. There's grant money out there for things that we might have to purchase, so versus what we might want versus what we have to, we'll just make sure that we're really identifying all those needs and being efficient with that. And the league has actually has lists with these 2 on there as far as partnership opportunities for training. So the league does not facilitate the training, they help you align with somebody to train, and that's right now the only identified area where we'll be utilizing somebody at this time is for the mandatory training.
And I'd just like to find out what our costs are, what we
Yeah.
have to do.
Great.
There's no price on safe.
Well, we found out one of the first, if there's a major accident and OSHA comes in, the first thing they ask is, do you have a safety committee? Do you have all your procedures in place? And they'll want to look at them. I mean, it's number one.
I know the OSHA manual is very, very thick, the CFR manual, so
Yeah.
it's just, I just want to make sure that we're
I mean, you have to go through it, and I mean, the best bet is for Lisa to go ahead and go find out all the information she can and try to put things in a order that she understands, because she is the one that's gonna have to answer the questions when somebody comes in and stuff, so she's the first one they're gonna hit, so she has to understand it, so.
Yeah.
About your man.
That's right, I mean, she's,
Yeah.
Right. Everything
if
has
she
to be up
wants
to
to yell at
date.
somebody, her first person she has to yell at when someone comes in here is you, Ted.
Records have to be in place, training records, all of
Well,
that.
I think it's kind of what we did with the police department, you know, you get
You
everything
have to have them up to date.
up
and
to
in
date
place.
in order, people signed off, make sure everybody's got the correct training.
With everything that's gone on with the police, I mean, if you don't have the procedures, you're in trouble from the first second.
Yeah, and the same company, you know, the fire department ended up going with them as well.
Oh, you
And
did?
they do ours for city administration too, so, I mean,
Okay,
it's smooth, it just takes a little commitment on the front end, but as of now, like, if we didn't go with that, I mean, it's changing weekly, monthly, we would be behind. So, you know, we get all those state mandates, which is specific to Minnesota, so it might be something worth looking at if you guys are gonna go.
yeah,
that route.
absolutely, yeah. Chris, you go, consensus?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Chris is in
Oh my
charge of
God.
that.
I have to
Coming
make
to
sure
the
I
committee?
ask. Walter?
Yes.
Okay, so we have consensus to take the next step in this. Phil, don't you have it done yet?
I don't know if I'm ever gonna get this done. But we're gonna try, and we're gonna try really hard.
Okay, we're at 6G, school property update.
Yes, Darren and I both had an opportunity to meet with the owners of the school this past week, and just wanted to provide an update. More or less, it was a meet and greet for myself and them. That was our first time that we had had the opportunity to meet. The owner shared a little bit of current status and where they're at and where they'd like to be. So at this point in time, they've identified the need for the school to come down. And I think that's understood from the city's
Yeah.
point of view as well. So at this time, we're gonna partner and try and get creative as far as identifying monies available to help take down the school. So we'll be establishing some meetings with the county. The owner is looking for alternative options with some of the partnerships that he currently has. And so we're just gonna continue to work on that. And then, once we,
I think get to the next step, he's making this a priority. He has
Correct.
property in Two Harbors, which he is giving up. It's just the old school downtown Two Harbors. And he's gonna concentrate on this facility here. And so, we're going to connect him with our commissioner for Mr. Peterson for this area. We'll put together a meeting, we'll meet with the two of them and see what we can do in the county, what's available for funding or money. They did help us with the old moose, tear that down. I don't know if that was 20-some thousand. This is probably $1 million to tear it down.
Would this be the entire school, even the
Everything.
elementary?
Everything.
correct. And he's already, looked into opportunities to rebuild,
Right.
after the fact. So,
He's thinking of the layout, he would have enough for 3 separate apartment buildings,
12 units.
12 units each in that property. That's his goal, that's what he wants to achieve that. So he's kind of putting all his focus on this. His 2 other partners that were with him, one left and I think he bought out the other one.
Correct.
So this is now his alone, and he's making it his primary focus to get this project done.
What does this guy do for a living? Is he a developer or?
This is what he does.
And he's a
He does this
banker.
nationwide.
He is also a banker. So,
Yeah, correct.
We'll continue to update as we meet with him and try and help him form connections in the area. He's got some really great ideas, looking at different means of, once you tear down, sometimes the county has an interest in buying materials that can be utilized for other projects. So if you can
It's more or less like crushing all that.
crush on site and then
Crushing
sell.
and, yeah, used in other building.
He was happy to hear there's a pit within a couple miles.
Because that could be transported and all crushed out there. Because it creates a lot of dust when you take brick and cement and all that tile.
Yeah.
You know, so he would like to get that out of a residential area to have it all ground up. And they reuse that material in other processes. So he's done this before. He knows what he's doing that way. He's trying to line up his finances on his end and try to get whatever help he can here. Like Triple RV, he's gonna look into all the different options up north here and see what can come up.
Shakes out.
Any questions?
Sounds good, sounds like progress. Slow, but
Yeah.
Right.
Moving on to 6H, Moose Lake Farmers Market Association request. I think I brought this in December. They want to go to the Minnesota, let me get to the,
It's not in the packet.
it's not in the package. I think we handed this out in December, if everybody remembers. It's the Minnesota Farmers Market, processed whatever, and this is what they want to go to officially. And this is like the second month, and we didn't get any questions from anybody, no response, so we're asking it to be approved. And when this is approved, any other agreements we had then would then sunset, this is what they would operate under. And Rory, did you have any discussion with that? You're very active in the farmer's market?
Well, I think that, I mean, we haven't had official meetings because with all the COVID stuff and that, but I think the only thing was, with the use of the structure, meaning that was built for the purpose of farmers market so that wouldn't get, put awry there. The other thing is, I think the advantage of doing this is to be able to accept like, the EBT and some of the funding programs, and the only way that we can do that as a group is to be kind of part of this Farmers Market Association, and that's a pretty big thing. I mean, when you look around the state now, most markets do accept, there's a number of different programs, so I think that was kind of the key. I know as being a vendor, I had individuals ask me, and you could do it as individual vendors, but that gets pretty complicated, whereas if you could do it as a market, which is what most of them are doing, then it kind of falls under that umbrella. So I think that was kind of the driving force behind this, but that being said, we don't want to, lose our location there, because I know I personally was pretty involved in making that happen, so, I wouldn't want to be back in a tent somewhere, but I think it's a kind of a win-win to be able to offer the opportunity to folks that are looking to get healthy produce and being able to use some of those programs.
So essentially, it will take the farmers market out from under the city's umbrella. They will be their own entity through the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. They're asking to utilize the pavilion at Generations Park May through October from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Saturday. So we would be allowing them to do so. And then with that, instead of the city collecting vendor fees from each vendor within the farmers market, they will take care of all of that as their own entity, and we would simply establish a fee for use of the area throughout the course of the summer. So we took a look at what we currently used to bring in, the cost of maintenance, and we've established and also wanting to partner with the farmers markets, we've established a $325 fee for the year. That is about half of what we used to bring in when we would facilitate it ourselves, but this would allow them to utilize the other half to be self-sufficient.
So I guess questions under motion by the council?
How long would this agreement be in effect at $325 a year?
Well, it'd be each year, they'd have to pay that, and if they don't, they...
I understand that, but I'm saying how long of a commitment are we saying at $325 a year?
Well, let's put it, the one that they're under now had no sunset date. It was just an agreement that they would utilize it and it'd be available for them for the days and hours that it was agreed upon in 2011.
For how many years?
My recommendation would be to add it to the city's fee schedule. The city's fee schedule is adjusted on an annual basis, or at least reviewed on an annual basis. So if the council's willing to make this motion to allow them to be under the Minnesota Farmers Market Association, I could then add that fee to the fee schedule and bring it to council next month for approval.
They could make this the annual thing when we do the fees in January.
That's what I would prefer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because things change, and it could change for them, it could change for the city, and I think it'd be not in the best interest of the citizens for us just to do it and just leave it. So, I'd like to add it to the fee schedule at $325 a year to be reviewed every year and to go into agreement with the farmers market.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to 7, reports and correspondence. We have none at this time. Number 8, committee board meeting minutes. We have the park board organizational regular meeting minutes for February 7th. We didn't have a quorum in January, so we had to do the reorganizational for this month for the park board. And under B, Moose Lake Area Fire District, Protection District for January 11th, 2022. Those minutes are there.
I got something on that. They're looking for new volunteer firefighters, so if you guys know anybody, put the word out there for them.
Were there any members coming up for this year? I can't remember. Did we renew any of this? We did that in January. I can't remember now who that was.
For volunteer firefighters?
No, for representing the city on the fire district.
It's still the same as,
Correct.
None of them came up, none of them sunset this year. I can't remember myself. You know, like park board members and all the other committees.
Correct. We had everybody who was previously on the board. It
Wanted to
continued.
go on, and so whoever was renewed then. And we have 2 members, that'd be yourself and Bob.
myself and Bob, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 9, announcements. Regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, March 9th, 4 p.m. right here. Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, February 16th, 12 p.m. at the City Conference Room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission, regular meeting Tuesday, February 15th, 1 p.m. at the Water and Light Office. Moose Lake Housing Redevelopment Authority Board, Monday, February 14th, 11 a.m. at the Hillside Manor Office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, March 8th, 6:30 p.m. at the Emergency Response Center. And lastly, Moose Lake Park Board meeting Monday, March 7th, 6:30 p.m. right here. Any questions, council? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Also, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.